Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2016. It is Super Tuesday around the country, and we are also 2 days away from the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC 2016. I'm here in Washington, D.C. at Town Hall headquarters, where I have been working all day long and doing blogging. And joining me on the line, as always, on Tuesdays, Andrew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, at @AHMalcolm. You can find him at investors.com/Andrew Malcolm, and producing today's show, because we actually have a producer for today's show. Producing today's show is Cranky T-Rex, at Cranky T-Rex. On the Twitters is crankytrex.blogspot.com is his blog, and he writes at buzzpo.com and occasionally at Hot Air as well. Andrew, welcome back to this special edition of the Ed Morrissey Show, the Super Tuesday edition.
I have to say, you look good there at World Headquarters.
Well, I'm dressed up. I don't usually get dressed up like this, but I was coming into the office today, and I'm actually the staff photographer today. I'm taking staff photographs today in between some of the other things I'm doing. So I'm having a great time here in the headquarters.
Well, I have to say that the Sistine Chapel selfie is untoppable, but this will do for this week.
Yeah, you think? I think this is a good look. I do. Yeah. I do think this is a good look.
Nice cabinet behind you, no stickers. There we go.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner in my normal office too.
I was surprised you wanted to do a show today because I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about.
Nothing's going on.
No.
It's not like anything's going on. Oh, wait a minute. There's a bunch of primaries going on today, including in my home state, which I have to tell you is really annoying because it's a caucus state, so there's no way for me to vote absentee. So I'm a little unhappy about that. But yeah, is it 15 states that go to the primaries today?
11, I think.
11 states. You're right. It's 11 states today. And among them, Texas, Virginia, Massachusetts, Vermont, and a number of other states, including, like I said, my home state of Minnesota. And California is not one of them, is it, Andrew?
No, California has made itself, well, it's irrelevant because of the party, but it's not till June. So it's a joke.
There you go. If it's still, who knows? Maybe it will still be in the mix in June. Who knows? In either party right now. But both parties have multiple events going on tonight. I think for the Democrats, one of the unusual ones, or one of the ones that Republicans aren't involved in, is Georgia. If I remember correctly, that's strictly a Democratic primary tonight in Georgia. But most of these, it's both parties going to the polls or the caucuses, and we are looking at possibly narrowing the field on the Republican side and maybe putting Bernie Sanders out of reach on the Democratic side. I'm not sure that there's a state where Bernie Sanders is going to do well tonight, Andrew.
No, I don't see it. He's got the young people, and that says a lot about being naive, and I don't see where he goes. But frankly, I haven't been paying precise attention to them as much as on our side, which is kind of a mess.
Yeah, our side is kind of a mess. Well, let's talk about what it's looking like tonight. I mean, right now it's looking like this is going to be Donald Trump's night. Cruz might have a shot at winning Texas. There is some indication that Marco Rubio might win Minnesota, my home state. But outside of those two spots, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of encouraging news for either one of those. And by the way, just to throw this in the mix, this is from Politico just about an hour ago. Marco Rubio's top campaign advisor huddled with roughly 40 bundlers and K-Streeters Tuesday morning to prepare them for a difficult primary election night. That doesn't sound like they're expecting really great news tonight, Andrew.
No, it's too bad. It's I don't know. I don't know what to say. On Sunday I watched the Trump rally in Birmingham, Alabama. And then I transcribed the first 60 minutes and I ran it just as Trump said it as my column Monday morning so that people could see what they were about to vote for if they like him. And, it is really, really scary. There's not
Yeah.
one, there's one complete sentence. There's shouts of when the hecklers broke out, get them out of here, will ya? There's a stream of consciousness. There's rants. And, to be honest, he was saying that there were 35,000 people there. I have no idea on the crowd count. It was at a high school football stadium. But after the first 10 or 15 minutes, at least the people that we saw on TV weren't all that enthusiastic. You didn't hear a lot of cheers. You didn't see a lot of people in the background. Every once in a while, they'd wave their Trump signs. But it looked like pretty much they were props for him to give his speech. He very graciously did a flyover of the crowd beforehand so they could see his big airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made an entrance, and he said, I've got a little surprise for you today. And he introduced Jeff Sessions, who spoke very briefly. And the wind was blowing. And while he was speaking, Trump came over. And, of course, he's towering over little Jeff. Came over and plopped the Trump Make America Great Again red hat on him. So basically all you saw above the podium was Sessions' head with a Trump hat on. So he spoke briefly and then he was done. And that was the same day that video came out of the Friday Christie endorsement, which it's magnificent timing by Trump because it drowned out all the Trump got blown away in the Thursday night debate talk.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really smart. Yeah.
But the mic was still live when Christie finished. Now, Christie gave Trump the endorsement. And as he finished, he turned to Trump and said, "Thank you." And Trump said, "Yeah, now go home."
Yeah, I saw that clip. And I wasn't quite sure whether or not Trump thought maybe he was kidding around with Christie, just sort of teasing him a bit, or whether or not he was really even aware that it sounded bad. But Christie certainly didn't look like he was very happy.
No one has ever accused Trump of being aware that anything he says sounds bad. And pretty much 80% of what he says sounds bad. So I just, it makes me shake my head that. So I hope that at least a few people would read it. And people were commenting this morning. I guess it was still being passed around. Excuse me. They were commenting this morning and saying, "Oh my God, there's no brain in there." The talk, it's just, much of it was simply incoherent and looked very much like he just likes to hear his voice, which...
it's kind of stream of consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
a typical
convinced me.
Yeah, a typical Trump speech is stream of consciousness. He kind of goes from one thing to another thing. It doesn't look like he prepares a speech. It looks like he's speaking off the cuff. And if you do that while you're, the best speakers sound that way, even if they're working off prepared text. I mean, Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton prepares his text. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He prepares things. But when he's up on the stage, it looks like he's just riffing, right? He's just whatever's coming into his mind. But it's organized. It's well organized.
Oh, it is. It's organized. And Cruz tries the same thing, but somehow when Cruz does it with those teeth of his and his little half laugh, it looks more calculating than thoughtful. You can have a pause as if, how do I say this just right? Or you can have a pause that, okay, the next line is, and then say it. And that's the way that, to me, Cruz comes across. but Trump, yeah, there's no pausing. It was a solid, full bore Trump the whole time. With his face got red much of the time. He was in the shade, but his face got red, and he's talking to the fire marshals. He's talking to the hecklers. Um, he's talking about ISIS. He said, "Well, what his usual thing about it was, I've never seen a worse deal than the nuclear one with Iran." Now, here's what you should do: you should go into the room and you say, "Hi, fellas," and then he went off on another tangent, and he never came back. He never came back to it, and that
Yeah.
was like 35 minutes in. So 25 minutes, he never came back to how you would really negotiate. He said Iran clearly read the art of the deal, but our side didn't, because of course nuclear negotiations are all about Trump. It's so it's just amazing that people who in large numbers are, I don't know, can there be that many people that are just Kardashian? They're struck by celebrity and they want him. You know what it reminds me of, Ed? And Juanito will get this reference. It reminded me of Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Remember, Schwarzenegger announced his candidacy on the Jay Leno show. He for the recall election on Gray Davis. He won. Then he won re-election, and he went in with he was an announced conservative for years before. He went in with a conservative agenda, and of course, none of it. In fact, he signed a big tax increase package. None of it came to pass because, as popular as populists are, they don't know how to play the game.
No.
And so he got played by, guess what? The entrenched interests of Sacramento. So now
To the
he's
point,
doing.
to the point where he ended up having to kind of throw in with them. I mean,
to get anything done.
Right, exactly, and that's how people who come in without any real, what do I say, any real core connection to a philosophy or to a set of goals ends up being.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And
right.
in a desperate attempt to get something done, they end up doing something that probably shouldn't be done. So I'm not hopeful. Let's see. We have so Trump gets the nomination and gets killed, or he doesn't get the nomination, or he doesn't get the nomination and runs a third party, and
very difficult for him to do that.
Gets the Republicans killed. But if he wins the nomination, there was a poll out. I forget who it was, but of Republicans, and the combined probably won't vote for him, or definitely won't vote for him, was 48%.
Yes, I saw that.
Republicans. So
now I will say this, because I have people who are part of the Never Trump coalition, and I understand how they feel, but I would say that general elections look a lot different in October than they look in March.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of people who were the Never Romneys, who ended up voting for Romney because the alternative was the second term of Barack Obama. And so I don't want to necessarily say that's going to be how it turns out. However, it's very clear that if Donald Trump wins the nomination, that there's going to be a significant amount of people who just simply are going to be completely unmotivated to turn out for Trump. And this is part of the problem. I talk about this in my book. And
what book is that, Ed?
You may have heard of this book. It's called Going Red.
I see it all over Twitter every day. Going Red book.
GoingRedBook.com.
And I think it's coming out in April.
In April, right?
Yeah. And pre-order on Amazon.
You can pre-order on Amazon. By the way, we finished the audio version of the book on
Oh,
Saturday.
That's fun. Was that?
I had a blast.
How was that as an experience?
It was really an interesting experience. Very, very good experience. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I wouldn't mind doing that again, even if it wasn't my book. I really enjoyed it that much. And it's different. It's a challenge. But because I'm used to doing this, for instance, and being a guest host on the radio, I'm used to working with my voice. And so I'll tell you, the biggest challenge that I had, Andrew, in doing this was slowing down.
Oh.
Because when I read fast, and I want to read out loud fast. And they kept telling me, you just need to slow it down a little bit, pace yourself, and
That's right.
really, because I get tripped up over words. I tell you, the one word I got tripped up over most, and probably because it appears an awful lot in the book, but is conservative. If you're not speaking clearly, it's hard to say conservative and make it sound right. And so
you gotta make sure that people can listen as fast as you talk.
Exactly. But the reason why I bring up the book is because the book is predicated on expanding the enthusiasm for the Republican Party to a larger group of voters. And you do that by reaching out to other communities and listening to them and getting to know them and understanding specifically what drives those particular communities. And so I take a look at 7 counties in that. And the reason why I bring this up is that the mistake that was made in 2012, and to some degree in 2008 too, but I don't think it would have mattered. It was just one of those years, is that Republicans relied on this sort of top-down national messaging of, just sort of broad ideology, free markets, conservatism, liberty, raw, and that will move the base a bit, but it doesn't pull in people in swing states.
Yeah.
And so the trick is to do both at the same time, really. And the idea is you want to excite the people who are part of your base while at the same time bringing people in.
Intriguing people, yeah.
Intriguing people, right? And how do you get people interested in you? You become interested in them, and then they'll become interested in you. And that's sort of the basis of the book. And what I see a Trump general campaign looking like, to some degree, is sort of the apotheosis of what we did in 2012, which is to say it's going to be even more national, it's going to be even more based on slogans, and it's going to be even more directed at a base while ignoring the people that you might otherwise be able to bring in.
Yeah.
And so that to me is what the danger is in having Trump rise up. There's other things too, and obviously there's things that went on this week and last week regarding Donald Trump's answer to Jake Tapper on white supremacists and stuff like that. That Hugh Hewitt called it the 47% moment for Donald Trump. I don't think actually that's the case because so far in this cycle, Andrew, I've seen very little evidence that Donald Trump can be felled by just something that he says or does.
On our side.
On our side, yes.
But I think once it gets into a general election, if he is the nominee, I think the Democrats are going to tear at him like you've seen movies of when you throw a piece of meat in the Amazon and the piranhas get it. I think they're just going to tear him to shreds. And you've seen the last couple of weeks when Rubio especially has gone on offense. Trump has no answer except to yell.
Well, this is an interesting topic because what we're seeing now is the media sort of wagging their finger at the Rubio campaign for doing what
Trump's been doing. Yeah.
And what the response to that is, I was talking about this with Mike Gallagher today on his show earlier, and I said the reason why Rubio's doing that is because they won't cover Rubio if Rubio's talking about the issues.
Exactly. And Rubio said that. Rubio says it. The reason I'm doing this and talking about big airplanes and so on is because...
And stubby fingers.
Yeah, is because it's the only way to get coverage. Now, Bobby Jindal tried that. He's not anywhere near the kind of quality communicator as Rubio, but Bobby Jindal tried that, and he did it specifically in a speech in which he tried to be very Trumpian.
Yes.
And actually, I talked our editorial board at Investors Business Daily, and I think we ran that the full text of it. Because he was, this is back in what, September. I think it's a very valid point. And to the extent the media, I'm sure, would like to have Trump because they're pretty sure that Hillary would win then. But the way they cover these people will help Trump.
Right.
And that's of course why he does it.
Well, let me just give you an idea here, Andrew, because I can't emphasize enough how much sounds Shakespearean to me. This was from earlier in the day, from Reuters. Okay, Reuters out of New York by David Randall and Jessica Tunkel, who are two Reuters reporters. Let me read you the read you the headline. Trump's low advertising spending weighs on U.S. broadcasters. They are.
Oh, poor babies.
Yeah, let me just read this. Now, with no Trump TV ads scheduled going into the 11-state Super Tuesday primaries, some investors and analysts are growing increasingly concerned that Trump could continue with an advertising-light strategy built on bruising debate performances and large rallies, often shown on cable TV, even if he wins the Republican nomination. Quote, for the broadcast industry, which has pinned its 2016 on local TV ad spend, you have to believe that someone who is pretty amazing at leveraging the power of social media would be a real big problem for television. I've got news for you guys. It's not that he's great on Twitter and Facebook. It's that you guys keep giving him tons of free coverage.
That's
so
right.
why buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free?
Exactly.
I could not believe this headline when I saw it. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, exactly right. And I saw a figure late last week that said that so far the PACs on the Republican side had spent $282 million, only $9.4 million against Trump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're all attacking each other, right? I mean, it's insane. I mean, the media is insane. The other campaigns were insane on this. And that's the reason why the Republican Party is where it's at right now, is because nobody wanted to take on Trump. Rubio's doing it right now strictly out of, there's no other strategy that's been left to try, right? I mean, and we're down to the last few days of viability here for both he and Cruz. So somebody had to do it. And so finally Rubio stepped up and did it, and Cruz kind of half followed on that. I'm not sure that there's enough time. If Rubio wins Minnesota tonight and does well in maybe Virginia, then maybe he's got a shot to go on. Cruz has to win Texas, and he probably will. And maybe he comes in second in Virginia rather than Rubio, and then he can go on as well. But then you're still stuck with the three-person race going into the March 15th Super Tuesday 2.
And you got the Midwest or Michigan and Ohio before then.
Which Kasich wants to win.
Yeah. You know, I have to be honest. I may also be naive, but this whole idea that with whatever it is, 412 delegates already selected, that the whole thing is going to be in the can in the next 10 days, I find that very hard to believe. You know, when I first started writing about politics in 1968, at the Democratic riot in Chicago, and an old timer said to me, "Remember, Andrew, you can always call an election. You can never uncall it."
Right.
And that's when editors, this is the print days where there were deadlines throughout the evening where print editors were always saying, can you call it now? Can you call it now? Can you call it now? And there was big pressure to do that. Now, of course, with online, you can do it anytime you want. And
right.
So I don't know, but I just, and as I say, I'm probably naive, but I just find it hard to believe that even with this big chunk of whatever it is, 600 and something delegates this week, that it's going to be in the can for Trump or anybody. I just find that hard to believe. But you know, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just hopeful, but I don't know.
I
We'll
don't know
see. I
either.
guess we'll have plenty to talk about at CPAC too.
We do. So we should probably take a look ahead at CPAC. What's coming up out here? Rubio is finally on this on the calendar out here, which is a little weird that it took that long to make those arrangements. But okay, he's on the calendar now, which is the smart thing for him to do. Glenn Beck is actually going to be the
Yeah.
keynote speaker, and so Saturday evening should be pretty interesting with Glenn Beck up on the stage. A big Cruise fan, and so we should be hearing quite a bit. I believe Trump is going to be here. Well, I know Trump and Cruz are going to be here. I don't know
Yeah,
about
Rubio's
Kasich.
going to be there. Carly Fiorina,
Carly Fiorina is going to be there.
John Bolton, of course, who I think lives at the CPAC Hotel, and I just saw a list. They'll be announcing more here
Yeah,
imminently, but
and we're going to have a
so
debate party here.
Pardon?
Town Hall is going to host a debate party on Thursday night.
Oh, cool.
And so we'll have a pre-debate panel. I'll be one of the people on stage. I think Sean Hannity is going to be actually leading that panel. I'll be one of the people on stage. Guy Benson, Katie Pavlich, Mary Catherine Ham, and I'm missing somebody, Leon Wolf from Red State. And
Is that going to be on the CPAC stage or somewhere else?
That'll be on the CPAC stage. It'll be on the main CPAC stage. And I think the debate is at 8 p.m., so I think we're going to start the panel at 7 p.m. And we'll get a chance to talk about that. And so, yeah, it's going to be, CPAC's really turning out to be, as it always is. It's a fascinating event. Even if you're not a conservative, it's kind of fascinating from an anthropological point of view. But we are conservatives. Andrew and I are conservatives, and we've been coming here for a long time. Andrew and I have sort of made this a tradition here, where we get together every CPAC and exchange notes at the end. And so I think after the Glenn Beck thing, you and I are going to be
we should have a dinner together, and where our conversation can be drowned out again by the fountain. The musical dancing waters of the fountain.
The musical dancing waters of the fountain. Yeah, we had dinner last time with Jazz, and we actually ended up the three of us ended up going someplace else.
Yeah,
because it was just
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it. I remember the first one I went to when it was at the old Warren Hotel in the city, and boy, was that an eye opener. I just enjoy the heck out of these things, and very exciting to see these people. I've always enjoyed, and been educated by watching these politicians in action. I remember at the Warren one time, so I guess it must have been '08. Rick Santorum walking around and went down to the exhibit hall, and I was following him around just to see how he interacted with people, and I wrote him off then. He was terrible with people. He was so arrogant. He walked right by Radio Row. He could have sat down and been a star on an endless number of talk shows. Nothing, just waves. People wanted to come up to him, and he had his entourage brush them away. It was very disappointing, but it was very illuminating. Then you see Sarah Palin stopping, signing autographs, people saying from behind, "Happy birthday," and she turns around and looks for the person who's talking and points to them and says, "Happy birthday to you." And the idea of, for instance, I did a piece this a few years back. I did a piece about how Sarah Palin plays with her audience, and contrasted it with, for instance, Santorum, who had his whole family, 9 or 10 people, come out and stand behind him his entire speech, which was painful to watch because they were all shifting feet and they were getting as bored as the audience. And then Mitt Romney comes out and he talked, and give him credit, after his speech he went down the steps into the front row and was shaking some hands. Sarah Palin, on the other hand, and I've always been intrigued by her chemistry with crowds. You can say whatever you want to about her and her politics, but I'll tell you what, I've never seen a speech like that convention speech she gave in '08, and I don't think I will again. But After her CPAC speech, she was the keynote at the end. She went down into the audience and was shaking hands and shaking hands. And groups of people would gather around her and sing happy
Yep.
birthday. And then she was shaking hands. And I watched and I timed it. And she spent 15 minutes more time with the audience than she did in her speech. And everybody went away having had a personal, I mean, it was a big audience. Everybody went away having had a personal moment with Sarah Palin.
Yeah.
And when you talk to those people, or when you talk to people buying her books, they're, oh, this is Sarah. And while I was interviewing one woman at a local bookstore about Sarah Palin and why she liked her, and while she's answering my question, she walks over to the table of Sarah Palin books and stands them up so they can be seen by people walking by.
Right.
This is the involvement, and she'd never met her. This is the involvement that she has. So that's why I like CPAC so much. And although it looks like I'm going to be unemployed here, Ed, Investors Business Daily is killing its national print edition at the end of April, and laying off 40% of its staff, including me, and going completely digital. I'm not sure I understand why they're laying off their digital political columnists as they go digital, but
that's a little strange, Andrew. It is a little strange. I mean, IBD's been a good home for you, and I thought it was a great fit.
Oh yeah, I love it, still do, and I'm going to play it for all it's worth. But I am going to use CPAC to nose around and see if there are some other at least part-time writing gigs that I can take on.
Well, and people would have to, be crazy not to try to bring you on, at least in some sort of part-time capacity, because I mean you've got. I hate to say this because it sounds so, I don't know, but you've got like 50 years of experience in this field.
Yes, no, I do. Yeah, next January I was hoping to retire Obama and then retire myself, which would be the 50th year. I may come up a little bit short, but it's been that long. And Don Serber in West Virginia, he's always writing and saying, "Oh, geez, Malcolm, he was started out in the era of hot type," which is true. So I still have my first byline, the piece of lead that came out of the linotype machine. They gave it to me.
Wow,
but
that's nice.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking with some more people at CPAC, and hopefully, even though you're already digital, you will continue to allow me to help host Tuesdays.
Of course. Why would? We just changed the line under the name. Nothing else changes.
Nothing
Andrew.
else changes.
Nothing else changes. Right. Andrew, you have a slot here as long as I'm doing this show.
Okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
So we got to protect Ed, folks.
Yeah, no kidding. See, now it comes down to it. But no, I mean,
that's right.
Whenever I go to a different platform for guest gigs, I always try to make sure that Andrew's on with me, especially if it's a Tuesday show, because it just wouldn't be a Tuesday without Andrew anyway. But you've got 50 years of experience. You've got so much experience and so much insight into this that, I mean, it's going to be sort of it's going to be our mission, I think, to make sure everyone here at CPAC understands the value that is out there right now in the Andrew Malcolm market.
That's right. The brand. Yeah. The Andrew Malcolm brand on Twitter or whatever. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it, and I, new windows opening or doors or whatever the hell the saying is. But but meanwhile, I have to write tonight about. Are you going to be writing tonight on?
I will. Actually, and what's going to be happening today is I will be here at Town Hall headquarters all day long and all evening long. I won't be going back to the hotel until late tonight, and I'll be here with the crew from Town Hall that covers these live as well. And we're going to have dinner here in the office. We're going to be in the war room. I think possibly on the town hall platform, there's even going to be some video of us working in the room here. And
Oh, cool.
I mean, this is actually a brand new office here for Town Hall. It's a brand new office, and so they've got this great war room sort of thing right in the middle of it, where there's just these long tables with lots of connectivity for people who want to connect up. I'm actually in an office right now. What you're seeing here, and there's a view of some skyscrapers behind me. But
That's a window. I thought it was a wall.
no, that's a window back there. We just have the blinds closed because otherwise the light coming through would play hob with the camera. But this is one of their offices. It's got like a sliding glass door, so you see out into the office. So I can see, for instance, Matt Vespa, who sometimes will blog at Hot Air. Guy Benson is just walking across the hallway here, and Faven, who's one of the town hall editors over here, is sitting out there. And actually, right now, what they're discussing is what we're going to do tonight for coverage.
So there's a Guy P. Benson alert out.
There is a Guy P. Benson alert. He got here about 2 hours ago, and he's going to be around here all night long.
He and I are both Northwestern Wildcats.
I know this, and
Yes.
you guys are big fans of the Big Purple out there.
Yeah, the Big Purple. We have some tough days, but Guy and I suffer through it. And actually, my oldest son, is the webmaster at BigTenNetwork.com. So if you're a Big Ten sports fan of any kind, they've got the video. They've got their own cable channel too. So they got the games and all this stuff, and knowing my son, who's worked for FoxSports.com, he was the ME over there, and a bunch of other places. He has the best. He has set up the best interactive sports schedule / score card anywhere I've ever seen. So in the fall, you can get minute by minute. You can go up and you can see what channel this game. I mean, not just Big Ten games, but college games. Period. And what channel it's on, where it's playing, when is it going to be played, what the score is now, how much time left in the second period. I mean, it's a phenomenal place to reside if you're a college football fan, which I am.
Well, yeah. So definitely check that out as well. You know what? I think we're about ready to go into our lightning round. I'm going to go ahead and cue Cranky on the lightning round. Yes, that is the sound of thunder, but it's thunder, but it's the same stuff. Come on.
We have amazing production values this week.
Actually, you know what? We got better production values this week than we normally do because we've got Cranky producing the show, which we hardly ever do. So, yeah, that's the lightning round where you ask the questions in the chat room, and Andrew and I provide pithy answers back in response, which we never do, actually. But we do have questions already.
We promise it.
We promise it, but we never deliver. Sounds like the Republican Party. I'm sorry, did I really say that? Hey, yo. All right. So, let's see. We've got some questions that are already up, and I told people I'd come back to them. First question is, have you gotten your CPAC vaccinations? That's from Juanito. Yeah, there's something that's called the CPAC plague. It's basically like a mild case of the flu because there's so many people gathering around and handshaking and all that kind of stuff. I should really get some antiseptic hand wash, but I'll get to that shortly. So thank you for the concern. All right, so I do want to get back to a couple questions that were asked, Andrew, during the part where we're talking about the audiobook, because there's a couple interesting questions. And it says, and this is from Juanito, it says, do you find that the way you read the book for the audio sounds differently than the way it sounded when you wrote it? I.e., do parts have a different voice? Yeah, I thought that was a really good question.
And we're not going to answer it. Next question.
Buy the audiobook and you'll find out. No, actually, yeah, I think that for the most part, there may have been a couple of passages that when I actually spoke them aloud sounded different coming out of my mouth than they did in my head. But I think, and this is just a pitch for the authors doing their own books, I think that the nice thing about doing my own book is I made sure that how it was performed, because and they talk about this a lot in terms of the audiobooks, is that this is a performance. You are giving an audio performance of your book. Right. I wanted to make sure that the performance matched what it was that I had in my head.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to do it yourself, if you can. And so
yeah. Well, I've got a question for you about the book.
Yeah.
I asked this of authors. I asked this Karl Rove, and I asked this of any authors that I ever talk with, and that is, what did you learn about yourself having gone through the process of writing the book that you didn't know about when you started?
Let me tell you, it's a great question. Let me tell you, not so much what I didn't know about myself, but what I became confident in. You know, I've gone to Rome a couple of times to report on events. I did it with the conclave, I did it with the synod, and I've gone out on the road in this job in terms of being a reporter for the primaries, actually 4 years ago. I haven't really had much of a chance to do it this time around, because I was writing the book. I was doing a lot of traveling for that. But I feel a lot more confident in myself and my ability to report, not just to opine, not just to write my opinion about things, because I'm obviously very confident in my ability to do that. But I think what I found and what I hope comes across in the book is that I can go out and be a reporter. Mm-hmm. And I think that hopefully that is what you're going to see in this, is that this is not just something I wrote by pulling together a lot of stuff in my office.
Right. You were out gathering original material.
I was gathering original material. I was talking to people who you wouldn't normally hear from, because these are people who don't rise to the level of attention from national blogging, national type blogging, that sort of thing.
Right.
So,
well, that's that's a huge value for the book, is that you bring something that nobody's going to get anywhere else.
That's hopefully.
And I just made a mistake, and that is I called it the book. And when you go on your national publicity tour, you will be taught that you never say the book, you say Going Red. What I tried to do in Going Red was...
You're right. You're absolutely right.
You want to pound that into the eardrums of every conceivable book buyer.
Yeah, I mean, that's anytime somebody calls it the book, you say, you mean Going Red. Which you can buy at goingredbook.com. Amazon.com. Yeah, exactly. So,
whenever he used to do the Larry King show, that when he had his overnight show, and he would come on and he would say, before he'd started the show, you're sitting right across from him in Crystal City, and up in the skyscraper that was closed, it was dark otherwise. And he would say, okay, look, I know the title of the book. You know the title of the book. I promise I will say it a lot of times. Please don't drag it in gratuitously. And so you didn't, then he did. He lived up to his side, so I tried to live up to mine. And at one point, I was writing, actually it's about Minnesota. I had a book called Final Harvest. It was a true murder mystery from southwestern Minnesota. And I think he and I were talking in May. And I said, well, Larry, there's a lot of people, even though the late hour, there's a lot of farmers who are out with lights, and they're planting now, because before the rains come, you want to get those seeds in the ground. And sure enough, 2 questions later, a guy comes on the phone and says, yeah, hi, Larry, I just came in from planting, and I want to ask this guy. So I think you'll have a lot of fun, and you shouldn't hesitate to have a fight, even though it's not your instinct or my instinct. I was on a radio show in Los Angeles one time, and I got into I don't remember what it was about, and I got into a pretty heated argument with the host on radio. And after I left, the publicity woman was taking me to the next one, and I said, geez, I'm sorry, I sort of lost it there. And she looked at me and she said, Are you kidding? That's great. Can you do it again at the next one? So, this is it. You've always got to have somebody to attack. That's what Trump knows.
Right.
So, are you going to be doing a lot of publicity?
I'll be doing some. We're going to be giving away 50 copies of the galley proofs on Thursday afternoon at 4:30. I'll be doing a book TV interview. I'll be doing a panel. We'll be doing, of course, the pre-debate panel as well. And obviously, I'll have a copy of my the galley proof up there on stage, and I'll talk about going red and all that kind of stuff. And some of that stuff some of the publicity stuff is still being developed. But yeah, if you're here at CPAC, you will definitely hear about this. In the swag bag, there's going to be going red stuff because Town Hall is one of the partners, and they are partnering with Crown Forum on doing promotions here. So
Cool.
Town Hall's been very, very good to me on this. Just want to stress this. They have been absolutely tremendous.
Well deserved, I might add, with the stuff that you contribute at Hot Gas.
Hot gas, according to Rick Perry. All right, let's move to a new question because we can't talk about Going Red, the book, all day long. Going Red, you can find that at goingredbook.com. But we don't want to talk about Going Red all the whole show. Let's see. Let's. This one from Faust is funny. I gotta answer it because it's funny, but there's a point to it. How different is a conclave from a brokered convention? Because it was mentioned, of course, that I was covering the conclave in Rome, right? How different is a conclave from a brokered convention? I think the only difference is that the brokered convention is open on the floor for everybody to see. I mean, my concept of a conclave, and honestly, the only people who actually know what a conclave is like, I mean, the actual conclave, are the people who are inside. So unless you're a cardinal, you probably don't have too much insight into whatever process they're doing. But it's an idea that you're trying to build a consensus that will get you to 2/3 of the voting members for one single person. So my guess is that that's sort of a microcosm, maybe a much more well-behaved microcosm. Who actually knows?
Well, and the conclaves, I believe, have much better hats.
They do. They have much better hats.
Because it's all about the hats.
It's all about the hats. It's either
big hats, medium hats, red hats, white hats.
It's either they're all red hats except for one white hat, and whoever winds up with the white hat is the guy who wins.
Is the guy. That's how you tell.
That's how you tell. So, but yeah, that's the difference. The difference is that the brokered convention probably has a lot more visibility and maybe a lot less comity.
Yeah, but we haven't had them in a very long time, since the late 40s, I believe. But the conventions had a real value, even though they became corrupted by big city guys bartering and trading, big city bosses. And that is that they forged consensus. So nobody came out of a brokered convention without everybody pretty much agreeing to it, to the candidate, or having bought in at least to some degree. And I have to be honest, in the day of television and social media, a broker convention is a volatile instant news place. So I think it would get much better ratings, the broker convention, because nobody knows what's going to happen, as opposed to the scripted 3-night marathons that they have. Well, the Republican one last time was 2 nights plus the speech, because of the hurricane. But
the hurricane, right? Yeah.
But I was a delegate last time. And
that's right, you were. Yeah.
I was right on the floor, and I got to tell you, what a cool perspective that is, to get to. You can pretty much go anywhere and walk around and talk to people and sort of be up close and personal. You don't get that close to the candidate, but his wife was sitting right behind me, and we sort of waved. But it's fascinating. I've covered them as a clerk. I've covered them as a reporter. I've covered them as a columnist. I've gone to them as a delegate. So this time I'm basically a job seeker. No, I'm a spectator this time. So
well, we'll see. I'm sure that I'm sure you're going to find some home.
Yeah,
and
that's
very,
good.
very, very soon. So
Okay, good.
we'll work on those things.
Okay.
Let's see.
What else we got?
Let's see. For those, I'll get back to the book stuff in a minute. Not the book stuff. I'll get back to going red stuff in a
Yeah,
minute.
right. Yeah. He's
Hugh,
learning.
Hugh didn't get on board with hashtag Never Trump. What's up with that? That's from Manifesto. I don't need to speak for Hugh Hewitt because he speaks so well for himself. I will say this: I think that in one sense we're getting ahead of ourselves because Trump hasn't won the nomination, and there are still other options in the race. And I think you can make good, positive arguments for, really, I would say, three of the candidates still left in the race. And I mean, I'm including John Kasich, even though I know that John Kasich is not popular with movement conservatives at the moment, and for good reasons. I'm not discounting that. But I think you can make a case for John Kasich. I think you can make a case for Ted Cruz. I think you can make a good case for Ted Cruz. And I think you can make a good case for Marco Rubio without making it sound as though you're kind of holding the party hostage.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Hugh's at right now. I think Hugh wants to focus on the positive messaging, and in all fairness, Hugh is in a unique position at Salem because he's being asked to be our company's representative in a very innovative and forward-looking partnership with CNN on the debates. And there are still more debates for him to do. There's at least the March 10th debate, and plus we might get, there's a possibility at least that we might have more debates because they've added debates to the schedule a couple of times. I know, Andrew's groaning, but I think that he needs to protect his status as at least somebody who will give a fair hearing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and to me, that's his brand. He's tough, right, and he's very fair, and that's why he's at this table, and that's why he's at his Salem table, because he's so good at what he does. Yeah, no, I agree with you totally, and I have argued with not that much success that certain newspaper publications should be focusing on the positives of each candidate one by one, what they bring to the table and what they offer, as opposed to what's wrong with some of them.
I think it's a fair question that Manifesto asks, but I think that Hugh is taking the right approach here.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why. And so, to the extent, I'm not going to speak for Hugh because you could call up Hugh Hewitt and he'd take your call and talk to you about that. And
so actually,
Hugh's
hashtag is never Trump.
Probably not now. Not
plenty of time.
Plenty of time to be never Trump, I guess, is probably what he's talking about. And so, Manifesto is thanking me for a great answer. And so I hope that does sort of address that for everybody. I just think it was a great question, and so I wanted to make sure that we got that one in.
Yeah. All
right. So, if Trump wins the GOP nomination, will he break Mondale's record? I think Trump would surprise you in a general election. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago at the Fiscal Times, and I actually think that, I'm not saying that this is a likely outcome. I'm not saying that it's a preferred outcome necessarily, but I think that people underestimate Trump's reach among a underserved and really heretofore unengaged section of the electorate. And if you think that isn't going to be responsive in a general election, it's possibly true. It may be that they'll lose interest by the time November rolls around. I am not necessarily going to bet on that. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to tell you.
I think, as usual, Ed, you make a very valid point. He has his devoted followers, and many of them are as committed to anger as others are to other candidates with a more positive agenda. There's just some disturbing sides sides to Trump. None of them are perfect. And I have to hand it to anyone who offers themselves in public office. I don't care if it's city councilman or whatever. Uh, I learned when I was in politics and government that it takes an incredible amount of courage to offer yourself up because voters know they have leverage on you and they don't hold back. They're brutal. I'm not
Nope.
saying they should hold back, but they're maybe a little ruder than they need to be, more demanding. But now that New Hampshire's done with,
All
anyway.
right. All right. So the next question, I'll go back to the one for that Manifesto asked. And Andrew, you'll be surprised to hear that this is actually a goingredbook.com question
Oh,
for those of us not going to CPAC. How do we get a signed copy of Going Red, the 2 million voters who will elect the next president, and how conservatives can win them? I'm glad you asked that, Manifesto, because I actually don't know the answer to it. But
well, you do what Karl Rove does. He says anybody wants him to send me a book plate. He provides the book plates, but some authors, like I just got, I sent a book plate to Peggy Noonan, and she signed it for my wife's birthday. So,
you may want to explain what a book plate is, by the way.
oh, it's just a sticker that goes in the front of the book and says this book belongs to, and it's got a bear on it or a dog or something, and then there's an open space, and they sign it. And I once got a book plate or what do you call them? A blurb for that farm book I mentioned, Final Harvest,
Yep.
from Dan Rather. And this is my favorite blurb of all time. He typed out a letter and said, "Dear Andy, here's this blurb." And it was something like Final Harvest is a gripping tale that runs through your emotions like a combine. And then he signed it, Dan. And then he said, P.S. Or I will be happy to denounce your book if you think it would help more. I just thought that was pretty clever.
That's pretty clever. I don't think Dan Rather would be running out to endorse my book, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. But look, I mean, I think that there is going to be a way to do that. I'm going to be meeting with my editor from Crown Forum about my book, Going Red, which will be coming out on April 12th and can be pre-ordered through goingredbook.com. But I'll be meeting with them to talk about this and talk about other things. I will bring that up because I know that there's a way to do that. I know other authors do it. I just don't know how it's done. So when I do it, when I find out, I will make sure that everybody knows how it's done. I would guess that we're going to work something up through the website. In terms of how to get a signed copy of, goingredbook.com. And so keep an eye on the website.
First edition.
First edition, right? A first edition copy. I can't sign the audio version of the book because that's download only. So it's just FYI, they're not going to sell it on CDs. It's download only for the audiobook. So don't expect to get a signed copy of that because you can't sign air.
A scratched copy of it.
Yeah, I'll do this. There we go. Now you're good. So however it works, I will make sure that we get an explanation on the website as soon as possible so that people understand how to get signed copies. Otherwise, I will be actually doing events in the 7 counties that I cover in the book. So if you happen to live in or near the following places, you can check the website. Eventually, we're going to get the schedule up there pretty quickly because we're already setting these events up. But if you happen to live anywhere in or near the following communities, you can actually see me when I come through to do these events. And that would be Tampa, Florida, Raleigh, Durham, no, sorry, not Durham, but Raleigh and Cary, North Carolina, Manchester, New Hampshire, Manchester, Nashua area, New Hampshire, Prince William County in Virginia. So that's the Manassas area, Manassas, Quantico area. We're going to be doing something up there. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. Denver, Colorado, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you happen to be anywhere near any of those places, keep an eye out on the website because I will be coming to each of those areas to do events. Also, I'll be in New York City the week of the book release, which is April 12th. And I'll probably want to do something in and around the Twin Cities because I live there, and it'd be kind of fun to do that. As well as in Southern California at some point, just because I used to live there, and it'd be fun to go out there and do that as well. I probably won't get all the way down to Miami. Faustus asking about that in the chat room. But, Tampa is probably, I don't think we'll do Miami. I just don't think there's any organizations down there who would want to bring in somebody who's talking about the I-4 corridor. But we'll probably be in that, St. Petersburg, Tampa area. Ybor City would be would be really fun if we could do that. But yeah, I'll be definitely in Raleigh. In fact, we've already got the stuff set up. We've already got at least one event set up in Raleigh, and I think we might have two. Plus, we're going to be talking to bookstores and stuff like that in these areas. So at goingredbook.com, there's a tab for events. There's not much on there right now. There's CPACs on there, but there's not much on there right now. But April 12th is when the book is printed and released. And after that, look for those events. And if I'm coming somewhere close by you, just plan to be there. Make sure you introduce yourself as a viewer of the Ed Morrissey Show, though, so that...
And you get special prominence.
Well, I can at least acknowledge your presence at that point. It'd be nice to meet you guys. And so, yeah, definitely. And Mad St. Jack, by the way, I actually met Mad St. Jack. He's not in the chat room today, but I actually met him while I was doing the research for this. He's in Cincinnati. He's over across the river in Kentucky. And he and I had lunch the last day I was in town. I had lunch, then I went to the airport. So that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you meet a lot of interesting people. And the one thing that I remember is that you work on this book in the lonely privacy of your own mind and basement or wherever. And then it goes out to the world. And you think that the world sees the same book you do, but they don't.
No.
Everybody who reads the book has a different experience. And it's wonderful. But I never anticipated that. And so people would write and say things like, my gosh, I can't believe you wrote this because I've always thought that. And I didn't write anything. I didn't intend anything special, but people read into it the way I guess they're reading into Trump and Obama things that they want to see, which is fine. I mean, they bought the book. It could be anything they want. But it was an eye-opening experience for me. I'm so excited for you, and so is Connie.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. And you guys have been such a great support for everything that I do. And so, and that's one of the reasons why, regardless of where we're at, this partnership on Tuesdays is not going to... Yeah, it ain't ending anytime soon, man. Ain't ending anytime soone.
That's cool.
So, but this show is ending sometime soon, so we have to get to the jokes of the week.
Have to get to the jokes. Okay, Seth Meyers says that, the Oscars were on last Sunday, marking the official end of Black History Month. Hey! Ew. And nice, Conan said that the movie Mad Max won 6 Oscars, which explains why the next installment will be called Reasonably Content Max. And finally, Jimmy Fallon says, President Obama announced plans to close the prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. But not to be outdone, Donald Trump announced he'll open a chain of Guantanamo Bay prisons.
Elegant, huge, I say, and elegant both at the same time. All right, Andrew. Well, you can find Andrew Malcolm at investors.com/Andrew Malcolm, at least for a little bit. But we're going to keep up with where Andrew is landing after that gig wraps up. But you can always find him on Twitter because he is the prince of Twitter at @AHMalcolm. And you can find him here on Tuesdays, which is totally
That's
awesome.
Right. That's exactly right. TEMS. Hashtag TEMS.
Hashtag TEMS. Exactly. Every Tuesday you can find Andrew Malcolm here. And if I'm guest hosting someplace else, well, you'll find Andrew there as well. So there you go.
I just follow him around like a puppy.
I'm not sure which one of us is the puppy in this scenario, actually. That's all right.
Okay,
That's all
we'll
right.
see you next week, right, Ed? And we can
We will
talk about CPAC.
We will talk next week about CPAC and Super Tuesday and all sorts of different fun things. So be sure to tune in then. Andrew Malcolm, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, and thank you, Cranky T-Rex.
Yes. Let's give a shout out to Cranky, who's done a great job of producing this show. I want to thank everybody who's in the chat room. Brick Nichols, Fausta from FaustusBlog.com, Guelph, Juanito Cabron, Manifesto, Mr. Fastbucks, Nutrix, Opachenga, Prairie Dog SD, T-Ran, Tom Dadak, Biapasso at the Ancestral Morrissey Mints. Come on. I didn't realize we're going to have music underneath this.
You didn't think I would have music?
I don't know why not, Cranky. I mean, come on. I'm a rookie at this. I don't know what it's like to have a producer for this show, man. Come on.
Well, now you know. And
now I know.
It means you have music occasionally.
It means I do have music. All right. For crankytrx.blogspot.com, producer extraordinaire of the Ed Morrissey Show today, and Andrew Malcolm, I'm Ed Morrissey. Tune in next Tuesday when we come back after CPAC at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central, 1 on the left coast. Until then, have yourselves a great week. Come to CPAC. See us. See you later.